please. Look at me like this way I hold it. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out and spending your Wednesday evening with us. My name is Amali, and I'm the events director here at Books Are Magic. We are so excited to have Makenna Goodman and Alex Auder with us tonight to celebrate the launch of Makenna's newest novel, Helen of Nowhere. Before we get officially started, though, I just have a few logistics to point out for how tonight's event is going to go. First up, we will be doing a quick hand-raised audience Q&A towards the very end of the conversation, so please start thinking of questions to ask and hold on to them. After the talk, Makenna will be around to sign and personalize your books at the alcove next to where you checked in. We'll let you know where and when to start lining up for that. And finally, if you're joining us virtually on the YouTube live stream, we would love to encourage you to buy a copy of Helen of Nowhere online using the link in the live stream description. Now let's get into this. I still can't believe that this book is only 160 pages because there is so much going on inside. The scourge of academia, the search for happiness, the longing for success, the wins and failures of feminism, the mysteries of real estate, and beyond. This novel is bewildering and electrifying, and we are so pleased to unravel its many threads with you all tonight. Makenna Goodman is the author of 2 novels, Helen of Nowhere and The Shame, and has written for international publications, including the New York Review of Books, the Los Angeles Review of Books, Bomb, and many, many more. Also an editor, she's based in Vermont. As I mentioned earlier, Alex Auder joins Makenna in conversation tonight. Alex is a writer and actor. Her memoir, Don't Call Me Home, was a semi-finalist for the Fulbright Prize for American Humor. She leads an online weekly writing group through Substack. That's all from me. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Makenna and Alex.
Yeah. Hey. You know you're in the dregs of the literary world when you want to include semi-finalists. You know? Like when I didn't become the finalist, I was like, so can I still put semi?
Oh yeah, maybe. I have not been even long listed.
It's wonderful.
It's fine.
It's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. Thank you for being here. Okay, so we have like we just quickly decided to do a hopefully fun for you thing tonight. So, but Makenna is going to just, I want her to start with just giving us like her elevator pitch for this book because it is hard to describe, and so she gets to do the elevator pitch, which is
okay. Mm-hmm. I am a trained elevator pitch maker by trade. No, yeah, okay, so this book is set over the course of one night. Oh my God, hi, sorry, there's lots of amazing people here that I haven't seen in a long time. Set over the course of one night. It is about a man. It's from the perspective of a man who has basically been cast out of his life. And he is searching for a new beginning. So he has sort of lost his position and his relationship, and his wife has left him. And he is in a hand-built house in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in the country, having a long conversation with a realtor that extends over a very long night. And it gets weirder and weirder and deeper. And then, like stuff happens. And what? Oh, yeah. Okay. This is a side note, but does anyone read the New York Times anymore? Okay. So if you do, no offense to those who might work for the New York Times who are here. Thank you so much for coming. There was recently.
Fucking New York Times. No,
fucking A.
I'm glad it's
love. Here. No. There was recently an amazing piece about a Thoreau impersonator. Did anyone catch this? Who has stepped down from his role as the latest and greatest Thoreau impersonator for many years. I forget how many, I think it's like 15 years or something. Because he's just not quite interested anymore. He can't put his finger on it. Well, thank you to this man, because same. And and this book is interested in that. It's like, what does it mean to be good? Okay, so I think that sort of,
that's great.
The elevator bridge long.
It's great.
Like
it's
up
perfect.
To the 50th
and so the
floor.
book is written in acts, and in some ways I do think it is like a play in many ways. And so Makenna's going to give just like a little taste of the acts are titled The Man, Helen and the Man, the wife, etc. So she's going to give a little taste of the man, just a small taste, and then we're going to do basically like a cold table reading of Act 3, which is Helen, the real estate agent, who I will play, and Makenna will play the man. I think of the man as also Makenna sometimes, and your man, and your man. And
he is many, and Helen is many.
Helen is everything, and Helen is nowhere.
Right, and no one. But Alex and I have known each other a while-ish, and we're really interested. I'm interested in turning this into a radio play, and so this is kind of the begin. We have some people who are involved, and this is the first cold read
for the radio.
For the radio, I wouldn't be in it. Alex is a genius, a theatrical genius. But anyway, so we thought, let's not do a boring read. Let's do a longer, fun read.
Yeah.
So it's don't get bored, and if you do, just like wave your hand.
And we've abridged the Act 3 quite a bit. So just know that there's a little more context within Act 3. We've cut out some stuff for your safety. And and I always feel like this when I don't know if a lot of you have been to table readings, but I'm always like, tell the people that we don't really act things out, because you don't want someone to think you're just being boring, but you're not really supposed to gesticulate and do sense memory. I just want you to know that we could do that.
We're being very casual,
but we're not going to.
So I'm going to just read the characters list, and then I'm going to launch into a short bit of the man, and then we might talk for a bit, and then we'll do the table read. Okay, so characters. Man, late 50s, wool button vest, arborist style pants with a worn-in notebook crease in the back pocket, lives in the city. Realtor, 40s, attractive hippie type, selling a house in the country. Helen, 70s, hard scrabble but aging well, owner of the house. And wife, 40s, in a sunny apartment in the city. And I am man right now. My wife was at one time a very beautiful woman, but over time, her beauty faded, and with it went her desire for me. There were so many years of notoriety that had held us together. My success, her adoration, my appreciation, the agreements we had made. It likely wasn't fair of me to see her beauty as fading. It would have been fairer to see it as maturing. And yet, if I'm being honest, it really did look to me as though it were withering, not ripening. At first, the changes in my position were devastating, even though they were largely ideological. It wasn't violent, but quiet. My wife and I would weep gently in each other's arms. And yet, with time, the lower I felt, the brighter she became. Though to me, that brightness felt punishing, like exiting a theater at midday. I had lost everything. And at the beginning, she felt she had lost everything too. It was a shared loss that at first brought us closer together. There wasn't a way for us to remain viable without my career, we told ourselves. It was what provided us an excuse to remain in tandem. The university was our container. It was where we had met. It was where we had formed. But I had died. That is, I became dead. To the world and to me. And yet she was alive, my wife said. Her dog enjoyed my spot on the bed. She would caress it while I lay far out, pushed to the edge. Such gazing, such devotion. She would invite it on the blanket and rub its long, blonde ear.
We can relate to that.
Love a dog.
Okay, yeah, so Helen, we learned that his wife was a student of his, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she was a very talented playwright, or she wrote a wonderful play that he loved, but he also, he says, she wrote this in the form of a play and performed all the parts herself as a surprise for me. Her idea was expressed through a reenactment of the funeral of Achilles from the perspective of the flowers growing near his funeral pyre. It was exquisite, and I was jealous. I began to doubt whether her work was wholly original. So I think that's really interesting that, because I also think of the man as like Makenna herself as the writer behind the narrator, like that undercurrent. And so it's also like questioning, is this work wholly original? And then I was just like recently interested in this phrase, mise en abîme. You put it in the abyss. It's like the play within Hamlet, or like we couldn't.
Oh, yeah, does anyone know the artist?
Yeah, ChatGPT wouldn't tell us what it was.
Yeah, thanks ChatGPT.
Yeah.
There's a really famous painting, we think it's Velázquez, where it's like a group of people in a room, and the painter is making a painting.
It's Velázquez. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank
Joanne
you.
knows.
Thank you. Yes,
yes. Right, okay. It's Velázquez, right? Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Joanne.
You know more than ChatGPT. I'm sure you already knew that. But yes, so I think that's loosely considered a mise en abîme, but this made me think of that because this is a play in and of itself, and there's a lot of kind of like stories within the stories mirroring each other, and I guess even the characters themselves. So I'm curious to know, like, who, if you had to say, because there's any answer, but who you, Makenna, how do you think of Helen?
Yeah, I mean, so Helen, I didn't say this in the beginning, but there's a character named Helen she's the owner of the house, and she makes an appearance in the story. And there's a lot of discussion about like how if the man were to buy this house, he could buy into a kind of life that she embodied while living there. And I feel like the answer to your question. I mean, I didn't. People haven't really read the book yet, so it's hard to talk about something they haven't read. But I'm really interested in form and in storytelling and in the stories that we concoct about ourselves and about how we sort of. I was just said this in an interview recently. This is going to make me sound like I only read self-help, and I don't, but I did read a little bit while writing this book. And Eckhart Tolle, I think that's how you say his name, but he said something. He's so mainstream, so many people love him. He's like in every airport in the universe. And he said something to the effect of, we see the world, oh my God, what did he say? We see the world the way we experience our own consciousness. And so basically who we are is how we see the world, which I think is like a really radical thing to say. And I'm surprised that like everybody seems to agree with him. I do too, that like we're all existing in the same world, arguably. And yet we all have different concoctions of what's happening and the roles that we're all playing in it. And especially politically now, we can see that like there's a lot of vehemence from many different places about who is telling the correct story, like whose version is right, and rightness and truth is under attack, and yet it's almost like a wormhole, like there's no way out to truth, it feels right now, like there's no way out. It's like it's a wormhole. And so I wanted to explore that idea in this book of like, how could you manifest that? How could you create that in a book that that made the reader feel that same feeling, but could allow a way out, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And that is in a weird way a mise en abîme, because it's like this, like a portal into like reproduction. Like there's the truth, but there's the same truth
like
in there.
Velázquez's painting.
Yeah.
The painting of the paint. He's letting you see that like there's an artifice that is painting a painting. It's not just, it's like when you're having dinner with someone and you're like, how are you? And they're like, great. Great. How are you? And you're like, fine.
And you?
Great. And it's like, no one's fine, everyone's sad, and
Yeah.
Get to the point.
Yes.
Anyway.
Okay, so I think with that said, we can go into our Act 3. And then we can still chat a little bit. I mean, we'll still have time to chat a little bit afterwards. But
it's fun.
Well, we're skipping Act 2. Yeah, we're going right to Act 3 because Act 3 is really.
It's like when it heats up.
Yes, when it heats up, and it's a dialogue. It's a dialogue, which a lot of this is a dialogue.
The whole thing is
a dialogue.
Yeah. There's no exposition,
and it's it's like a philosophical, in the old school way of like asking questions. We also connect a lot on. Sorry, I'll just say this really quickly.
Oh yeah.
The way we connected was our favorite author, Vigdis Hjorth.
Is that how you say it?
Well, I don't know. I looked up a few times and I still, yeah.
Vigdis
Do any of you know? Oh, you are. Yeah. What are you
my
reading?
God.
Okay.
Molly's reading her.
Will and Testament is Mother Dead.
Is Mother Dead?
Yeah.
So good.
That's the best one.
Yeah. I mean,
Although her
Will and
new
Testament is
book,
down-
Repetition, is
I know.
amazing.
Anyways, but
She's amazing. She's like a hugely famous writer in Norway. Almost nobody knows.
like
who
as
she is.
famous as Karl Ove Knausgård.
Yeah.
But
But a woman, you know.
but a woman,
Right.
and so
So-
we don't know her. Only the
But
Norwegians
she's
do.
really brilliant. Okay, kudos to
Yes.
her.
Okay.
So,
But she's
yeah.
obsessed with Kierkegaard.
Obsessed. Her whole project as a writer is thinking about Soren Kierkegaard, who's a Danish philosopher.
But you don't have to know that, and you would never necessarily. She does mention him, but
not
as-
pretentiously.
Yes, and so Makenna said a beautiful thing walking over here is that the work itself embodies the Kierkegaardian concepts, the theories. So you don't
All
have
of
to.
her books are
Yeah.
conversations with the philosopher. I've tried reading Kierkegaard, and I I went to college. I consider myself like a very deep reader, and I cannot understand one word of Kierkegaard. Okay, but the beauty of Vigdis Hjorth's writing is that she can tell a story that makes you feel the urgency of his philosophy, and you don't even have to know who he is or what it means. And I think that's really exciting.
So,
anyway,
there's something
yeah.
there in here.
Yeah.
We feel like there's Helen is like this, can
Portal.
be this philosophical questioner. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Okay, so Act 4.
Let me get my place.
We're a little
We might
chaotic.
have to stumble a little bit because we like crossed out really quickly lots of things. We're not reading that. We are. Okay.
They told us to do it on 2 times speed, so.
Yeah. Okay. So we're starting page 71, right?
Yeah, Act
Okay.
3, Helen. Okay. Wait, who am I? I'm the
Oh,
man.
you're the man. You're starting.
Okay. I opened the front door. There was the realtor, wearing a raincoat, 20 minutes later. The weather had changed. In her arms were 4 pieces of stove wood and an old newspaper. She hung her coat on a mudroom hook. She came in and made a fire in the wood stove. Soon the room warmed up. An orange glowed behind the stove glass. The realtor asked me to sit on the built-in couch and make myself comfortable. There was something different about her, but I could not place what. She was holding a bag, and inside it was a glass and a bottle of brown liquid. She put the glass on the table and poured the liquid into it, motioning for me to take it. She took another glass out of the same bag, poured some for herself, and drank it down quickly. I did the same.
Please speak your name 3 times.
I did what she said.
Okay, I'm ready for your first question.
I asked her what this was all about.
It's about your spirit, of course.
But what does that even mean?
If you look at your spirit as a horse running through a field, you can see that there's just no restrictions. There's just absolute expression without any kind of hesitation. There's just complete expression. The soul, on the other hand, like when a man is soulful, when he's playing jazz and becomes the music, is how the essence of who we are can come through.
As the realtor talked, she closed her eyes, and every so often I could see them flutter open, exposing the whites. Her eyes were turned back inside her head. And yet, there was still something seductive about her. Still, the way she sat, with her legs wide open, her hands on her knees.
Go ahead, ask another.
Is my career over?
This voice that's in your head, it's not you, Professor. This voice is your ego. Your ego is trying to make you small. But baby, you know how to write. You know what to do. All you're thinking about is your failures and your sadness. You need to love. You're all about your work. But it's love that you need. The engine will roll and you'll be totally fine. You need to sit in nature, let it wash over you. You need to live again. You're confined, baby, and you need to be free. You need to swim, baby. You need to jump into cold water.
Should I buy this house? Is this a test?
I need you to be serious. You become entranced by a woman and you're contemplating objectifying her. Is that a joke to you? The thing is, that's not you. That's your ego. You don't really want to penetrate her body. You want to penetrate her consciousness because you have a lack of consciousness. You are empty and you are seeking fulfillment. You think it's as simple as buying and selling, but it's not, baby. It's much more complex than that. Take your wife, for example. Your wife is what you call an amiable person. That means that underneath her easy sensibility, there is a tendency to build resentment. which grows slowly over time and doesn't manifest as a problem until it's too late. Most of the time, she goes about her work saying little, becoming even quieter when interrupted, losing track of what she believes, serving the whims of her superiors, while quietly managing the system of the college from a middle management position, getting none of the credit. Do you understand?
Yeah, but what does that have to do with my career?
Look, because many of your wife's colleagues are expressives, anytime there is an opening for your wife to prove her value, they interrupt her and then forget to return to her thoughtful contribution. Eventually, people who offer less to the university are promoted above her, and she grows resentful. But because your wife's supervisors have gotten so used to her even demeanor, they bristle all the more at what appears to them as her growing self-righteousness. She applies to fellowships so that she might transcend her work through her craft, but she receives many rejections. The only thing left for her to do is take her frustration out on you. Isn't that right, baby?
I said that, yes, my wife took out her frustrations on me. I told her that, in fact, I had wondered if there was even a point to existing. I had thought that observing and then creating work based on those observations, making, was my way into the truth of existing. But was it just as possible ceasing to exist was the only way to exist truthfully?
That's why, in terms of energy, leaving the city would be a positive move for you. You need support. You need nature. You're needing more of a natural kind of energy, and you're not getting it. It's the internal energy that's within each of us. Part of you, part of your teaching has been to put as much money aside as you can so that you can arrive in a moment and say, now I'm ready. I'm going to do it. But who is I?
I thought I would remain relevant forever. But will I?
You're an addict. Always hustling. You're a beautiful addict and a very loving addict, but you're still an addict. You do too much. I think it's beautiful, baby, but it doesn't have to be long-term lifespan because you're going to burn yourself out. You need to do less and do it more fully. You need to think of life as a pond and caretake the edges of the pond, diving in whenever you get hot. But a pond is something you have to teach yourself, baby. It's not something I can tell you. What I can tell you is that because of compassionate reasons, you're looking for it.
My wife. Why am I not attracted to her?
What you're asking me is bullshit, baby. Why don't you know her? You're a very loving, compassionate person. You've got something real there. You understand. You're a very loving, very compassionate person. And your wife is in control. And so you're frustrated with her. And it looks like she's repulsive because she has what you yearn for. And you have to reject it out of pain. She's messier than you. She has emotions and feelings. She is run by desire. And you don't have that range. What you're really saying to me is, I wish I could just express part of my emotions and be like my wife. You want to be like her. And you want her. You're telling me you don't, but you do. You want your wife badly. What do you think your wife would say to you?
She'd say I was being naive.
See, that's where the voice in your head is giving you this information. You don't know what part of yourself. You don't know any part of yourself or a part of yourself. And at this age, you should know the qualities of your heart. And you don't. You doubt your own heart and you compare it. Part of your ego is throwing you off because you're comparing apples to oranges. Your wife is with you because of the quality of your heart. She married you because of the qualities of you. It's yourself who repulses you, baby.
But my wife is so angry. Why does she resent me?
Because she should. But baby, it's still false information. Your ego is giving you false information. When this happens to you, you need to say to yourself, this is not correct. Your wife, and I really truly believe your wife loves you. I genuinely believe she just absolutely loves you. What she has difficulty with is when you have uncertainties inside you. I know it has not been easy, but I believe on an intimate level, on a sensual level, on a sexual level, you need to get on track. You guys need to bond more
Sexually?
on every level.
How?
Take your clothes off and take her pants off, and you just do it. You have to enter her. In the past, she's been the wind and you've been the feather. Roles change, characters change. It's part of the evolution of a marriage. I think she's very grounded. I think she's doing things to create grounding, to stabilize everything, but she has to be the guide now. You have to follow her. She's been following you. Now it's her turn to lead.
You're saying I should work on things with my wife?
You guys need to have much more sex is what I'm saying. When was the last time you put her on a massage table and just pleasured her? I don't care if you watch porn. I don't care if you get more toys. I don't care. The woman is pretty open. It's not that she's not willing. She's pretty open sexually. She's alive. She's fully there.
What if I'm afraid of her?
You're afraid of a deeper level of intimacy with her. You're afraid of being vulnerable, baby. She's stronger than you. You have to let her be the strong one.
But why do I find myself fantasizing about her as her younger self?
Because it's something you can control. When you imagine her this way, it's because you can control the experience. You don't feel safe with her now because she's stronger than you. And when we don't feel safe, that's what we do. You need to have a very honest conversation and say to your wife, what's going to please you? Tell me what you like. You might say, I want anal sex. Do you? You might say, I want you to get a strap on and I want you to penetrate me. You might ask to be caressed. You might caress her with a flower. But you have to figure out what you want and you have to be curious about what she wants. You're challenging, you're changing and evolving, and none of this is shameful. You're cold, baby. You're so cold. What is the thing I don't have, you are saying to yourself, and how can I get it? The mind is fickle and the mind fixates. Soon it is the desired thing in relation to the stable thing. Life becomes a choice. Which do I want more? What would make me happier? And if I choose one and it's the wrong choice, what then? I'd have had it all and thrown it all away. But what's the use in choosing between two things that might not lead to happiness? You can't be fickle about it. That's all I can say. You don't choose between survival and death when it comes to finding happiness. And you can't be fickle about living. That's it. That's the end.
She looked at her watch, stretched her arms behind her back, then turned out the light. The room went black.
How do we do time-wise?
It was a little long.
Okay.
Anyway.
Sorry if we went
We
on
did
too
it.
long. Oh, that's not
You
so
did a
bad.
great read.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
There's a lot to talk about, and
yeah.
I don't know. What should we talk about?
I mean, I don't know. I guess I do. I know it's not, it's a bit uncouth, but I guess I am curious about your personal experience in marriage.
Uh-oh. Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm still married. I have been for a while. No, I have a great relationship with my husband. He's amazing, and he's a huge inspiration to me, actually, and a very important reader of mine. One of like two that I can count. And I think we're okay as we've evolved and we've known each other for a really long time, like 20 years. I have changed and he has changed, and he's a man and I'm a woman, but it's more complicated than that. And as we've evolved together in a vacuum, is what it feels like, those roles have shifted. So I had the babies and he was working, and then I was working and he was with the babies, and then I was working more, and then he was coaching the kids and they're older, and then I was working even more, and then he was working more, and gender shifted and sex changed, and our relationship to theories shifted. And we met when we were very seriously homesteading in Vermont. He had been before me, and I began, not because of him, I was already going down that road, but then I kind of jumped on his wagon. And we built a farm together and a life together that was really rooted in the land in a really powerful way, to the point where I really felt in my 20s when all of my friends were like, I don't know who I am and what am I doing? And oh, I'm traveling now and now I'm fucking this other person and everyone's having a party. We were like raising chickens and like selling just so much garlic in Brooklyn, you know, like, and there was this one moment where we were selling it, my sister-in-law's outside her house, who's here right now. And I was just like, we have 2,000 garlic plants this year and it's insane. And they're so good. And I had my little basket of what I called petite sweets, which were the shitty small garlic that we were like branding as cute. And literally no one bought any garlic. And we were like, what? And this was like right when farming was like becoming like something that like rich people did again or something. And we were like, what? They don't want the garlic. It's so cute and like amazing. And it's because Brooklyn people, do you store garlic? Like, no, you buy like a bulb when you need it.
I don't live in Brooklyn, but I don't store garlic.
Okay, fine. But like people in Vermont, they're like storing shit tons of garlic in their basements and in their root cellars, like 2,000 bulbs of garlic that will last them through the year. Wow. And so we were like, everybody stores garlic. Anyway, all of which is to say we had this very deep rooted sense of virtue and an ethos that felt extremely important. And to be honest, I felt a part of me was like, well, everyone's lost, but I have found the land. So sorry, everybody else, but like, fuck off, kind of. And I, not in an aggressive way, but I really am being honest when I did feel that. And then I had kids and they were in the public school system, etc. And all of a sudden I started to see that like my little place in this world was a mythology like everything else. And that I was telling myself this story about my own whatever ethics that was really fraught and completely incomplete. And so anyway, and Sam too, my husband, like we were like, wait, what? So like, oh right, what we're doing is just another bougie hobby, but we've convinced ourselves that it is a way of life that we are doing to survive. Well, that's not actually true. And if you ask anyone in the Back to the Land movement, a lot of them came from money. Most of them did. So like survival and choice is a really interesting juxtaposition that I feel like I've been exploring for a long time in my marriage too, of like, okay, so what does that mean? Like when you can choose a good life.
And that's interesting because I hear what your answer is, and then that's interesting what the book says, you know, because the book is asking the question, like, what, I mean, at least in that section and in many of it, like, what do you want? Like, what is your soul or your deepest desire? And are you afraid to ask for it? So on some level, I hear you saying, like, you know, the Back to the Land movement was a bit of a persona that you bought into.
But it felt really religious.
Yeah.
Like it was real.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that it was an air that I was putting on. It was real. It's just that realness shifted over time.
Okay, yeah.
And it was like, you start to, I remember this, not this like group therapy, but it's related. But I remember this moment when my kids went to this very low income school for a long time. And I remember this moment where they were like, hot lunch is so gross. It's really gross food. It's not healthy. You know what I mean? It's not like what we have at home. And my first instinct was like, yeah, well, you know, that's why we make these beautiful lunches for you, because we really want you to have these health. And as I heard myself saying it, I was like, this is the most classist shit I have ever said in my entire life. This food is literally the best food that most of these kids get today, you know? And here I am like making these beautiful lunches so that my kids can like not have braces or something. And I just feel like it's funny because we were talking about our love of Wallace Shawn.
Yeah.
This is a real shift.
Yeah.
I'm like, jump, take, whatever. But I was just watching an interview with Wallace Shawn and the playwright Annie Baker about, I guess, like last year or something, Lincoln Center, Dylan, I don't know, you maybe know this, like did a showing of My Dinner with Andre, the Louis Malle film. And he was talking about class and how he was like very intrigued in unpacking his own privilege. And I was like, oh my God, that's the first time that I've seen a prominent white man say something in an honest way that didn't feel super performative. I was like, oh shit, like
Oh,
Wallace
Wally,
Shawn,
we love him.
Wally's being so honest right now.
Yeah.
This is amazing. What?
Never get in a
Anyway.
land war with a Sicilian.
Yeah.
Princess
Anyway, but
Bride.
I'm like, shout out to Wally Shawn
yeah.
last year.
Anyway,
blah,
yeah,
blah.
but I mean, speaking of I think that's what I wanted to actually say that about the book as a whole is that we were talking about this in writing group today. You do aggressively own your voice in this book, you, Makenna. And you dominate. There's like this thing that Elizabeth Hardwick was saying in this little thing I was reading today. I think you dominate the voice, which is a really bold thing, and it is often delineated to a man's voice, like to do a more like bold experimental thing,
Yeah, someone just asked me at an event, they were like, it was a man. I mean, I don't mean to be like, the man is, you'll see. I mean, the man, he's not a villain, he's the
love
hero.
the man.
We love the man. Like the man, this
We
is not
love
an
the man.
anti-man book. Truly, it's not. The man.
Helen wants the man to succeed.
Yeah, and you as the reader.
You're going to
I would
really
hope
laugh, though, if you read the book and you get to the end when we say that.
Yeah, I'd love to know what you think about that. We should probably open it up to you.
Okay, yeah.
Oh my God, thank you.
Oh, yeah. That's
I'm like
sweet.
maybe having my first hot flash or something.
No.
Anyway, but no, it's not anti-man, but why are we talking about this?
Oh,
the
well,
voice.
just dominating
yeah.
the voice and the page and like doing more of a, it's narratively not your normal run-of-the-mill narrative. Yes, and we associate that with a male voice, but it's ridiculous because it doesn't have to be, but we do associate this with a male voice.
I did mean to do that, to be honest, because I feel like with my first book, it was a book about like philosophy and humanity, and it was also about motherhood, but I think of motherhood as like a state of being human, and like everyone had a mother or lost a mother or whatever, missed their mother or was a mother, and people just like loved to talk to me about motherhood the whole time. They're just like, so like you as a mother and mother, woman. And I was like, I have to write it from a man's perspective because it will be seen as human. People won't be like, the people, I do think we are still at a place in a society where we just trust the male voice more, as much as we would hope that isn't the truth. And this book is playing with that idea. Is it true? I don't know. Is it something to be ashamed of? Mm-hmm. Is it something to play with? I don't know. But I owned my maleness.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
You're hot as a man.
I am. My heart is a man.
Okay, so I think
asshole.
we're going to open to questions. Yeah, we're going to open to questions. I know it's hard to ask questions if you haven't read the book, but
you can ask Alex anything.
Ask us
so
anything,
smart.
as they say on Instagram. Ask me anything.
Oh, and we're supposed to repeat what you say.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what we're going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, young person.
Okay, well, kind of going off of that, I really wanted to ask what your favorite character to write and get into was, because I feel like you painted these characters so beautifully.
That's a good question.
So which was the most?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What was the most fun? What was her favorite character to write?
Yeah. Oh, I feel like at one point all of these were the same character. So to me, I think of them all as a version of the same character. Like it was something that the filmmaker, I feel like I keep dropping names, but I really have been reading Agnes Varda's interviews lately, and I underlined this big thing that she said, which was, she's like one of my favorite artists of all time. And she said that we're like, each of us contains at least 4 people that are in constant conversation and contradiction. And so I feel like all of the people in this are like could be seen as like one person.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't choose because they're all like the same in a weird way. I don't know.
I totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Peter.
I wonder if you could speak about your first book and its relation to this one, because I know you said that they're connected in some way. And at first blush, I maybe didn't see that at first, but now thinking about it more, I see the connection more clearly. So I just wonder, because I know there's so many Shane fans in the audience, to talk about that.
Oh yeah, the question, you want to say it?
Okay, yeah, and can everybody hear? Yeah, what's the connection between The Shame, Makenna's first book, and this one? And, he just wants her to elaborate a little bit on their braided themes.
How did you describe it? It was like you had like a great
Diptych?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Diptych, yep.
It's great. Uh-huh.
I kind of see them as a diptych, but I don't know. They're both different publishers and they don't look the same, and so they're not marketed that way. And my publisher was like, "Please do not call this a play in public." And I was like, "Okay."
Yes.
Anyway, but
Yes,
I
sir.
don't know. I mean, like, I'm not like a writer's writer. I should say, like, or with a capital W at all. I feel like I'm like really interested in theory and unpacking something, and writing happens to have been a method that I have had access to, and then they were published, and so it became like a thing to say 2 novels. Blah, blah. But the first book was like, I was just really obsessed with like how one comes to like self-awareness, like as simple as that. Like, how do you recognize yourself? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like the most basic question of like human existence, but like, how do you like see yourself truly for the first time? Like, at what point can you remember in your life when you were like, oh, this is me? I remember the first time was when I had been living away from my mother for like at least 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
She was like out of my psyche. Sorry, Mom. And I started cooking dinner, and I was like, oh my God, my mother has never made this before. She does not use this much butter. This is amazing. Oh my God, I love butter. And I was just like, ah. And that was like the moment for me, right? Where I was just like, I am me. Amazing. And the internet is just so fucked up. And I wrote that book at a time when like Instagram and social media was like this hot new thing that was like opening our worlds. And I was just like really bothered by it. So I was just interested in like the self and how the internet played into that. And what that looks like, and layering. I was like, well, we'll layer on an old classical thing because that'll be a fun constraint. So this book is, I feel like at the end of the shame, I was like, the self. Okay, right, self. I am me. I think I like integrated it. And then with this one, I was like, but then what happens when you confront the other? And how do you bring other into self? And what does that look like? And how do you love? And I mean, honestly, like, what does loving somebody actually look like? Like the mechanism of it. And what does that mean in terms of the ego? Like decentering the ego to allow another ego to exist in a relationship. And they both take place over the course of one night. That's it.
It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah. Truly.
Yeah. I've been married for 30 years.
But you love him. I mean,
I guess so. I mean, I don't know what love is.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, who knows?
But like roles change. I mean, I think that's what's most interesting about relationships.
Sorry,
is like
Nick.
Roles change, and sometimes you break up because you're like, no, like we're done. But then sometimes you're like completely a new person. Like I had a therapist once who said, it's funny because his wife was a therapist, and he was like, I've had 5 marriages. They've just all been with the same woman. And I was like, okay, I get that.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. I mean, I have a very pessimistic view of most things. And so I'm very unromantic. So I always say that to people. They're like, should I break up or stay? I'm like, if it's not abusive, it's basically the same thing over and over again. So it's like, stay in it if it's like working, and especially if you're broke. If you're rich, you should definitely get divorced. I 100% believe that.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. Just get a fucking
That's
apartment down the street. If you're not rich, then you're pretty much like, maybe it is easier to stay together and you'll just figure it out. Yeah, I mean, like unless
taxes,
you're being beaten or something. Yeah.
Yeah. But like marriage is like a capitalist construction. I mean, not to be pretentious.
Well, that's why celebrities and rich people get divorced so much, because
they
go
can.
ahead. Yeah. Have fun.
Yeah, you divorce.
Have fun.
because you
Enjoy
can.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know.
There's no self when you're married. There is no self.
Yeah, there is no self.
There is no self. Yeah.
When you have
Molly,
kids.
yeah.
Molly.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for this fan. I'm so hot. Oh my God, I'm dying.
I'm going to ask this question. I didn't write it down, so I'm still figuring it out a little bit. But I was really attracted to this male voice, and it's a man who's kind of basically been canceled.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. And I feel like the cancellation is a little bit like, kind of like COVID or the World Trade Center coming down, where everyone says like,
wait to write about it. You know, some time has to pass because we're just too in it, and there needs to be a little bit of a distance. But eventually somebody has to write about it. And I thought that you wrote about it in such a empathetic, honest, truthful way. And I feel like it's also something that you could do because you're a woman in a way. I think it would be much harder for a man to write about being canceled, particularly if he had been canceled. You know, and it's something that's really interesting to me. And so I wanted to know how you felt about that, if you felt at all daunted by writing in a male voice, or how that would be perceived, or
That's a good question.
Hard to repeat, but like,
Did everyone hear?
No, I mean, basically, this is for the YouTubers, I think. All the thousands
And you had,
of
and we're
people
trying to
watching
repeat.
right now.
Yeah, totally.
This is for you. I'm going to repeat it.
You can
Essentially, the man has been canceled. Molly thinks I did it empathetically. What was it like to write in the man's perspective? Okay. I am so angry at men, like deep down, right? And I feel as though men are a part of the problem of humanity. And like, I can't take those two things apart. And if I stick in the anger of like what all the men in power have done and continue to do, I just think it's too essentializing. And what it does is because I love a lot of men, and I know a lot of really good men, more good women, but a lot of really good men, amazing men, and men who like men who were just born men. I mean, like whatever, like people, you know,
human beings.
And I feel like I wrote it at a moment where men were just like, everyone hated men. I mean, I think I finished writing this like, I don't know, like 4 years ago or something. And it was just in a moment where like, we're deposing men from, you know, not really, it didn't really happen, but there was talk of this shift in power that was needed to happen, and everyone was going to be done with men. We were done with men. And I just wanted to complicate that a little bit and be like, okay, so I have a son, right? Who, I mean, he's male now, I don't know. But like, I love him. I don't know. I mean, he's amazing. So what does it look like when you look at people as humans without, you can't turn away also from the damage that has been done by men in power. And we can't just be like, everyone's equal, because that's not how it works either. But like, I feel better when I can see the possibilities and not in the hate, you know, and like, I wanted to exercise that. And I also wanted to embody that kind of asshole to see what it felt like, because it looks really intriguing to just walk into a room and own it and be like, you know, fuck off. Like, I didn't have to think about what I wore today because no one judges me how I look. I mean, women, like, when was the last time anyone ever did that? Who's a woman? I just think it was interesting, you know? And I also thought that people would not talk about womanhood so much, perhaps. I think we need to talk about masculinity or men or whatever, this idea of power. And I'm kind of sick of women writers talking about being women all the time. I'm just kind of like over it. Because I just feel like, yeah, okay, it's important, but like, can we stop asking women about women? I want everyone to talk about men.
I like it.
in like a different way. I don't know. But also, I feel masculine too. That's the other thing too. Like, I also feel deeply masculine, and I have masculine urges. I don't even really know what I'm talking about in terms of gender, and you know, maybe I'll be canceled.
And there's certainly toxic femininity as well.
For sure.
Well, no.
Yeah, definitely.
Mommy.
Yeah, but totally. Yeah.
Mommy. You know what that is?
Tell us.
You don't? Come on. The first person who says, thank you. You get a special little man rub afterwards.
Wait, what is it? I don't even know.
Blue velvet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yay. Good. Very good. I got one more for you. Beautiful, gorgeous. Wish you were here. I'll do it slightly better. This is just a movie, you have to say. Beautiful, gorgeous. Wish you were here. If you get this, you really get a special rub afterwards.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Film people? No.
French Kiss starring Meg Ryan. Okay, no one gets a rub.
Okay. Amelie?
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're over time. Sorry.
I'd love to ask about the title. Helen
Oh, yeah.
Especially in light of all we've just talked about with a male character at the center
I'll
of
do
this.
you.
I'm curious
No.
if there were any other ideas for the title or what prompted you to make Helen, who is more of a minor character, you would say, in the story, the center, or at least the highlight.
Good question.
Yeah, good question.
I think
so
everybody
why,
heard that, right?
Why the title Helen and who is Helen? Or like, what's the deal? What's the title and Helen? Okay. The title's really, really hard. I came up with it very, 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 very late. And it was the same way that I came up with my first title, which was talking on the phone with my friend Sheila Hetty. And I was like, I should just title it, blah. And then I said it. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So I think titles are so hard. But she's the only one who has a name. And at first she had a different name because I didn't want her to be named after Helen of Troy or Helen Nearing, even though that's what she was based on. And then I just decided to call her real name. So I was really interested writing this book. I was doing a lot of research about Helen Nearing, who was one of the pioneers of the first Back to the Land, well, not first, but the Back to the Land movement in the 30s, sort of like the Depression era wealthy intellectuals who left the city. And they were famous. She and her husband, Scott Nearing, who was a famous socialist and eugenicist, as it turns out, went back to the land of Vermont and then Maine, and they wrote this book about it called Living the Good Life. And that book is credited as like being the launch pad for the Back to the Land movement in the 60s. And I read that book when I was in my early 20s, and it totally changed my life. And I was like, this is amazing. My husband read that book. So many people that we know who are living off the land read that book, and we're like, okay, this is the way. You know, it's like the artist's way for hippie homesteaders. And then I read it 10 years later, and I was like, well, this book is weird. Like, this book is filled with such just deeply embedded supremacist ideology. And I was like, but I love her. And she's a supremacist ideal. You know, how can that be? And that helped me be like, okay, how can we complicate notions of good based on their context that they're talked about in? And so anyway, that's why it's called Helen of Nowhere, because she's nowhere, because she's everywhere. I mean, you know. I don't know.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And Helen of Troy, she's like a hot temptress, like, you know, warrior, genius.
She was abducted.
And
abducted. And she was abducted.
and she was
yeah,
abducted.
exactly.
That too. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like all of the things. Yeah.
One more
One
we
more.
have time for?
How
Hi.
did this book begin for you?
How did the
it
book
begin?
begin? Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry.
That was good. We doubled.
Yeah. What did I say?
How did it
book
begin?
Okay.
How do these things begin?
How do these things begin? I mean, okay,
a good
so
question.
I was working as a high school English teacher for a brief stint at a boarding school that was on a farm, and the mission of the school was to learn. I'm not going to say the exact mission because ChatGPT will out me. Whatever. Learn how to live for common good, for the common good. And that was a beautiful notion. I think that's really important. And ... It's much more complicated than that. And so I started writing this when I was faced with the confrontations of what people's definitions of the common good is when the systems of geopolitical whatever shift, or what perspective do you have to see the common good in a certain way, or who gets to decide what the ultimate definition is and why. And I could only answer those questions through fiction, because when I answered them directly, it was just like one big giant fight after another. And I was really fascinated specifically with how well-meaning people and well-meaning intellectuals who have a history of making good fail to evolve into the contemporary moment. And I think that is also where we're at politically with the left. Sorry. But like, how can we continue to evolve to meet the moment and not just be like, but remember in the 90s or the 70s, when like environmentalism was like, not the same as social justice. It was so much simpler then. It's like let's evolve, people. Anyway, I forgot what the question was, but that's how it began. How did it begin? It began to try and come to understand, like, why are people unable to just like actually think of the common good? Anyway. So
Amen.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Closing.
We did it.
Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to everyone who asked questions. Thank you, Alex and Makenna, for such a fantastic conversation and live reading. Such a joy to celebrate this launch with all of you. As I mentioned earlier, Makenna will be around to sign and personalize your books. That's going to be happening right where my coworkers are pointing to, in the back. Yes. It'll make a little bit more sense in just a moment. We're just going to ask that you all line up kind of down the center aisle. Please make sure you grab all of your personal belongings with you, and grab a copy of Helen of Nowhere at the front if you haven't yet. We also have a few copies of The Shame and Alex's memoir, Don't Call Me
Alex's
Home.
memoir is amazing, guys. Please read it. It's excellent.
Thank you.
It's so good. She's such an amazing writer. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you,
Thank you, Books Are Magic. Books Are
Seriously,
Magic.
great bookstore.
Yeah,
Amazing,
Books Are Magic. Thanks.
amazing bookstore.
And thank you all for
Thank
coming.
you all. We've
Yeah.
got a lot of events coming up for the rest of this month. We've got a calendar as well up at the front register. Thank you all for coming. Have a great rest of your night.
Without you, we would be nothing.